Good afternoon and welcome to Mugello for the fifth round of the Radical Esports Cup here on iRacing. It's the 2100 GMT on a Friday split, and once again we're back here on Racebot TV and iRacing, bringing you the action here from this great Italian circuit. We're on a bit of a run actually of really twisty circuits that started a couple of weeks ago at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park and arguably runs all the way through to Alton Park on the 6th of May. So still plenty of twisty racetracks to come, including here tonight. Myself, Ian Lillery and Ron Mans will take you through the action. Good to be back alongside you for this one, Ron. We're tearing towards the halfway point in the season. We've got another very technical circuit on the menu.
Yeah, off the back of Suzuka 1 week ago, which put on yet another barn burner here from the Radical Esports Cup, we head to Mugello, a track probably most synonymous with hosting a Formula One race back in 2020, but this track has been a staple of motorcycle racing ever since it was built. It is a wonderful racetrack, lots of twists and turns, but that massively long start-finish straightaway and the heavy braking zone down to turn number 1 gonna give us plenty of overtaking as well.
In the championship standings, Havik Gullikson is leading the way by 15 points only ahead of Rafa Blanco. Heinz Braun then a bit further back with Andreas Friedrich ahead of a real close group. George Gonzaga and Cattell Larsen not too far behind him. Then it's Sully Rattanen, Christopher Yanakis, Andre Castro and Johnny Cajolas, who is rounding out the top 10. That's supposed to say 670, by the way. That is your top 10 for the 2025 Season 2. Gullikson's still leading. Our B-roll shots were recorded when it was a bit sunny, a bit earlier in the day. Well, the actual track conditions are very, very different. It's actually quite hard to see through the fog and the clouds at the moment. Very, very overcast. Just 19 degrees out there on the circuit at 20 to 9 in the morning. And that is going to be a problem for the race. It's actually one of the lower track temperatures we're going to have this season. Although having said that, it is a pretty low track temperature season, considering we're getting towards the summer now. Not sure it's going to make too much of a difference here, really, Ron. We've had these conditions all season long, but it is relatively foggy out there today.
Yeah, I'd say the main thing when it comes to a foggy race, and maybe this is just me being a little bit dull, it usually does my mind in a little bit. If you're running around a racetrack, which is just so dark and gloomy and frankly depressing looking, you're not going to be as amped up as you would be on a nice, bright and sunny day in this sim. The humidity is incredibly high, so the track's going to be a little bit greasy. These drivers are basically going to be running through a bowl of soup. Actually, no, we're in Italy, so they'll be driving through a nice bowl of risotto, which is a terrible mental image. So, Ian, I'll pass it off to you so you can save me after that quote from me.
Well, it's going to be difficult tonight. That is for sure. This is Grosjean Bublok in the 3 car, working his way through the middle sector. This is turns 8 and 9. Arrabbiato 1 and 2. Havik Gullikson, there he is. IGL team just leading the championship standings at the moment by only 15 points ahead of Rafa Blanco, who is there in number 13. He's been up there in races this season so far as well. Just running around the middle part of the lap here now as well. It's going to be another one of those rounds, and we've said this for the last few weeks now, where qualifying is going to be relatively important. Through the first couple of rounds, you could get away with a bad qualifying, maybe a little bit less at the Nürburgring, but especially at Road America, where it was really wide open, in fact. A little bit less round here, less overtaking opportunities, even considering the slipstream, which there's plenty of in these radicals.
Yeah, if you get off to a bad start in this race, I mean, if you have a bad qualifying session, that's going to be pretty bad. Even if you start from a pole, if you don't nail that wheel spin coming off of that start-finish line down that start-finish straightaway off into turn number 1, you're going to be in for a world of trouble. That run down into turn 1, one of the longest on the iRacing platform, I believe one of the longest that we'll have all season long here from the Radical Esports Cup here for Season 2 of 2025. Important to get a good qualifying session, and super important to get a good start. Harvard Gullikson currently on the provisional pole at the moment. And one thing to race about Harvard, a little bit upset was the reigning champion after some incidents he was involved in last week's race at Suzuka. I was a little bit surprised. I was looking through the season standings as it stands at the moment, as you raised right at the top of the show, you had a little bit of a small gap in that championship fight for this overall championship for the series. He hasn't run in a race thus far this week. I believe this is his first time hitting the track with these SR10s, but hey, this is usually where the most amount of participation is. These drivers like to bring their A game to these races, and clearly, despite not having a lot of on-track time thus far this week, Harvard Gullickson still bringing the thunder.
He certainly is, and currently leading by just a tenth of a second over the driver of number 1. Mika Henrik Hulkkonen also makes his way through the middle sector now. And this is Leon Hernandez just out of the final turn as well in number 14. See what the time's going to be here, which is still 3 minutes to go in this session. It's going to be a 44.0. That's going to put him towards the bottom end of the field, and it does. Unfortunately for him, off of the start of this one. And Gratian Bubolk as well. Similar to, get a bit closer actually. He'll go into 4th place, I think there. Oh no, 3rd, just slips in front of Lasse Sorensen. So a very good time indeed from him. As Gabriel Berger is still yet to set a lap time. As you mentioned, we really do learn these familiar names in this Radical series. We've been here for a few weeks now as some more faster times come in. And this is where the big guns really all come out. We are going to see a lot of the top contenders in that championship here today. Obviously, Gullickson is currently leading this session as well. Rafa Blanco is currently only 14th, which is quite a long way down for him. Hans Braun only 13th. So Friedrich 4th. As he is in the championship. So, you know, plenty of the big hitters coming out, and that's exactly what you'd expect here. This is some of the very best Radical drivers in the world out here this evening, even though it seems like a random time to be rating all in all.
And as someone who's done these broadcasts in this time slot for about 10 seasons up to this point, it's a consistent cast of characters week in and week out. This man, Dennis Kyriakopoulos, in the number 12 car for insert name iRacing team. Always love saying that team name. Inert Racing currently slotted in 6th at the moment, just set that lap time a couple of moments ago. Here's another veteran of these SR10s. It's Gabriel Berger in the number 19 car, a driver from the UK, very fast in the Radical European Championship, which you can catch sporadically on Race Spot TV on Sunday evenings in the UK. I believe that's Sunday afternoons here in the States. But very fast driver to be sure. Many of the drivers that you see up and down the running order are ones who have been around the block before in these SR10s. But one name that's really sticking out to me is one who I haven't seen in these SR10s in quite some time. It's Alfredo Malo in the number 1 car, set to line up on that front row.
See how he gets on as we get this race underway here in a few moments' time, ready for 14 laps of racing. It's Harvard Gullickson who will take the pole ahead of Alfredo Malo, you just referenced in there. Lasse Sorensen and Andreas Friedrich will share row 2 ahead of Kim-Andre Bjortland, and Gratian Bubolk in the 6th position. Just inside, half a second off of pole was Sebastian Lipp and Dennis Kyriakopoulos, the teammates on row 4. It's Heinz Braun and James Barry who round out the top 10 with Mika Henrik Hulkkonen and Gordon Haag on row 6. Kjell Larsen is next ahead of Andre Castro, surprisingly down in 14th. Rafa Blanco, surprisingly 15th, to be fair. Then Leon Hernandez in 16th. Gabriel Berger and Luke Crowley round out the 9 rows of drivers who set times. Wesley Batista did not set a time, but hopefully will race here from 19th position. You see them all getting onto the grid here and getting ready here for the start of this race. As I mentioned, 14 laps here tonight, which is actually the least we've got in the next 5 weeks or so. It's going to be a few very interesting rounds still to come as we're waiting for a few more to grid up. I can hear someone's engine revving very loudly in the background. Not sure who's doing that at this stage, but anyway, the drivers are now finally getting themselves into positions. Get a couple of minutes, of course, to get themselves there, but once they are, they'll be ready for that long run down towards turn 1. And it is one of the more important starts of the season as we have that run down in towards turn number 1. How will they get on this time round in the 5th round of the iRacing Radical E-Cup? And it's not a good start from the front row there at all. On the outside from Marlow, he's gone backwards, but moving forwards is the pole sitter. Now under a lot of pressure though, Harvard Gullickson in towards turn number 1 for his teammate, in towards the first braking zone, and he will hold the lead pretty comfortably. And it's not over the man who was alongside him, it's instead alongside his teammate. Oh dear, that was a very big slide in the mid-pack there, and there could be trouble just to the bottom of your camera shot there. There was just a close moment through turn 2. They get away with it in the end, and Harvard Gullickson retains the lead.
That could have ended an absolute disaster at the front of the field, but still some close quarter stuff with the two IGL teammates running P1 and P2. Gullikson and Sorensen, they're a little bit like bread and butter in these races. You always see them around and they always go together well. Let's see how those two teammates are going to try and grab command of this race in the early stages.
Through the middle sector, the very fast flowing middle sector, they go for the first time. This is Andres Friedrich, who's up to third place ahead of Kim-Andre Bjorklund, and Alfredo Malo still going backwards, by the way. Brian Bubulk is now just in front in 7th place now, so it's not been a good start at all for Alfredo Malo. That is a real shame for him. A bit of a weave around there from Sebastian Lipp, who's made some good progress there up to 5th place, by the way. He's brought Kieran Kapoulos, his teammate, with him as well. That is putting Kim-Andre Bjorklund in a bit of a sea of inert drivers, as Bubble is just envisioned there. On board, we'll go with him now in 7th place. That's a good move for him to get up ahead of Alfredo Malo, who just, to be honest, seemed to go nowhere on the start for some reason.
Yeah, and really, I raised this point earlier on talking about the mastery of the wheel spin in these SR10s. When it comes to the throttle, when it comes to the brakes, really when it comes to everything with these SR10s, there is such a molecularly thin line that you have to ride on top of to get the most amount of performance as you can out of these race cars. And off the line on cold tires, especially in conditions like this, mastering that wheel spin and balancing it as best as you can is super, super important. But here's a side-by-side fight involving James Berry and Andre Castro. Castro already has a couple of wins thus far this season in the Esports Cup. On the other hand, though, James Berry is a multi-time champion, 4-time champion to be a bit more precise. Won it back-to-back a couple of seasons ago, but has not had a good time in this SR10 thus far this season. Just lost out on a spot. That Castro remains in the top 10, but only just.
It was very close, by the way. Castro just edging him out on the way through turn 3. And in the end, he will keep 9th. That's an improvement, massive improvement on where he qualified, though, of course, as we focus in on Dennis Kirakopoulos here. Bubulk has made a good start in the 3 car, and he's brought Alfredo Malo with him as well in this fight for 6th position. As we go on board, you can see just how close he's getting through this section at turn 10 and 11. He's not close enough for a dive, though. You really need to wait for turn 1 here. Mugello often painted as a circuit where it's hard to overtake, and that will still be a bit true in these cars, but down towards turn 1 should be all the opportunity that these guys need.
Yeah, turn 1 and that massively long straightaway that precedes it is a breeding ground for overtaking in these SR10s. I've said this a lot throughout the season. I will continue to raise this until I am blue in the face from doing these broadcasts. The SR10 probably in the top 5 or even the top 3 of drafting road course cars on the iRacing platform. It's like there's a Hoover stuck to the back of these race cars, sucking them together and hang down these back straightaways. You can really tell this is going to be a close fight involving Bjorklund and Sebastian Lipp. Lipp in that number 10 car, diving down to the inside off into turn number 1, and it looks like he's going to get that move done.
That is 4th place for Sebastian Lipp then. And behind, by the way, there was a bit of side-by-side of the no positions changed just in the background. Kieran Kapoulos still just in front of Bubulk on this occasion. Malo was really looking for positions as well there, and the rest of them are catching up from behind. Andre Castro and James Barry are just 2 of them as they go through the chicane again, avoiding the gravel and working their way back down the hill through the middle sector again into that section where you really can't overtake. Bubulk even looking through here, though, on the back of Kirakopoulos. He's definitely getting closer.
Yeah, that he certainly is. The gaps are starting to diminish, and for these drivers who had a rather bad start, cough, cough, the driver who riding on board with Alfredo Malo was not able to manage that wheel spin quite so well, heading off of that starting box, so he finds himself in 8th at the moment after starting from the front row. But he's a quick driver, and he's going to try and make hay while the sun is not really shining here at Mugello. Looked like he was going to go for a rather brave move a couple of moments ago down into the long, never-ending right-handed hairpin of turn 12, but not close enough to get that move done on the 3. Malo still gonna be on the hard charge, and you want to get this move done before the drivers up towards the front begin to break up.
Another small look into the final corner, but you're really put off doing that by the fact that there's a real long run onto the front straight, coming up straight afterwards here, and Kyriakopoulos is going to be under real pressure here. This is going to be, oh, he's going to sit through on the inside, Pubok. I can't believe he's let that happen. Kyriakopoulos there's on the outside, and he could get Freight Train now. Have a look at this in the background. Marlowe's going to be looking for a position, so's Castro. They're going to all look here for the inside line. Castro on the inside line will get Marlowe, and actually Kyriakopoulos only loses one place in the end. Friedrich, meanwhile, and Björklund, I think we're going side by side there, or was it Friedrich and Lipp, excuse me, who exchanged places. Sebastian Lipp now into third position as Marlowe will try and follow the Bubble-driven number 3 car, still can't. So Marlowe overtaken by Castro and just could not follow Bubok through, drops now to 9th place.
Yeah, dropping down like an anvil push out of a helicopter. This is not a good development for him, but let's see. We still have a lot of time left to go in this race, but we follow the number 3 car, hounding the back of Kim-Andre Björklund and run a little bit wide, heading off through the mid-sector. That was off through into turn number 8 and 9, ran a little bit wide on exits. Those medium to high-speed corners are usually the spot where I personally have the most amount of trouble in these SR10s. They tend a bit more towards understeer, and this is an official series with fixed setups, mind you, so there's not really anything these drivers can do outside of just changing the way they attack these race cars. So that's going to be something we have to follow all throughout the season. The mindset that these drivers have trying to manage these fixed setups, which are known quantities in these SR10s, doubly so for the veterans who have been around the block before. But it's always so fascinating to see how differently these drivers manage driving the same car with the exact same setup.
That was pretty close. Marlowe just got a bit of speed at the wrong moment there through the final corner. He didn't get the slingshot that he was really looking for here. As you look behind him, that's James Barry. He's not close enough. Is Marlowe close enough to Castro? This is the vision that you can have a look at towards turn 1. Again, he's not close enough here. Castro may have a look at Kyriakopoulos, but no, not this time round. Oh, he's got it too late, in fact. He may have been better served going down the inside there, because he nearly ran straight into the back of the 12 car, and he's cost himself a lot of time there, Andre Castro. That is him now behind Alfredo Marlowe, who moves back into 8th place again.
And that is not going to be an ideal moment for him at all. 5 laps on the board of this 14-lap long race, so still an okay amount of time left to go to try and dust yourself off and make your way back up the running order. But a setback like that is still not ideal either way. Following Heinz Braun, heading his way off through the tight and twisties in the mid-sector of this racetrack. Those corners, especially tough in these SR10s. I raised that point 1 lap ago, but I will continue to say it. It is a very fine balancing act that these drivers are doing, doubly so if you're Boblik in that number 3 car. He's got the dirty air from Kim-Andre Björklund right in front, and also got Andreas Friedrich right in tow as well. And a little bit farther up the road is Sebastian Lipp. So I can imagine the driver of the number 3 car is getting practically no air on the front of that race car. I think there's more air displaced from a Mosquito than there is on the front splitter of that number 3 car in 6th.
It is it is one long line at the moment from 3rd place right the way back, or maybe 4th place right the way back. Sebastian Lipp's got himself kind of free now. Gullicksen's leading by nearly a second. Lasse Sorensen clinging with his fingernails onto the slipstream, but the battle is here really. It's exciting stuff back at the lower end of the top 5, and it's Bubok who's closest now to Kim-Andre Björklund. He's not going to move out the slipstream here, or is he? He sort of hedged his bets there, half defence, half slipstream, and in the end he's got neither. Bubok goes down the inside and he gets 5th place, as in the background Kyriakopoulos makes a mistake, goes wide. Marlowe will get the position. Look at Sebastian Lipp going slowly up here as well. Has he got a slowdown or something? Not sure, but all of a sudden the podium's back in play for all these guys.
I think Sebastian Lipp may have had a half spin coming out of turn number 1. He was about as slow as molasses coming out of that section. He's also doing a little bit of lawn mowing as well. A disastrous series of events for the inert team, because as that was going on, Kyriakopoulos had a major lockup heading down into turn number 1. I don't think the drama is over for them just yet, as the 2 teammates of Kyriakopoulos and James Barry currently battling for the final 2 spots inside the top 10. But back up towards the front of the field, Sebastian Lipp leading a train of race cars. His teammate Andreas Friedrich right in tow. Boblik still trying to make hay while the sun is not really shining here. Currently finds himself in 5th at the present moment. And Alfredo Marlowe, after a really tough start in the number 1 machine, is still looking up in front, and he wants to try and get his way back up into the podium spots. Don't think a battle for the win is realistic, considering the 2 IGL Coatings teammates have just driven off into the sunset, but for Marlowe, the chance at a podium still remains.
It is. A chance for the podium. That third down to 12th are going to fancy now. 10 drivers will all be in the conversation here as they come out the final corner. Bubok has looked really strong so far in this race. He's got the double toe now from teammates who are not going to make life easy for him here. Sebastian Lipp and Andreas Friedrich, are they going to battle between themselves maybe here? Lipp pulled right to the left, and he might well get taken by both here. Oh my goodness, Grania and Bubok there, just pouncing on the floundering teammates out front here, in towards turn 1, and he might have third place. Outside line for turn 2, it's going to be tricky, and Sebastian Lipp breaks late enough to make sure he limits his position gains to just 1. But what were the teammates doing there? They gifted that to Grania and Bubok.
Yeah, in going side by side, hang down that start finish straight away for as long as they did, instead of just having a coordinated effort to remain in tow, they were basically dragging anchors through asphalt down that start finish straight away. Bulbuck taking that run, licking the stamp and sending it, heading off into turn number 1. If he pulled off that 2-for-1 deal heading down into turn number 1, it would have been a fantastic move from the driver of the number 3 car. You can still see how powerful the draft was, though, as we were riding on board with that driver of the number 3 car. He just had such a head of steam, it looked like there's a Saturn V rocket attached to the back of that race car.
Now, can he stay with Sebastian Lipp? Because I think we've seen so far that of the teammates, Lipp is certainly quicker than Andreas Friedrich so far, even though he did hold that podium position earlier. Andreas Friedrich, it is no longer for him. He's actually under a lot of pressure here from Alfredo Malo, who's starting to wake up in this race. Better late than never, I suppose. We are nearly halfway through, but he's starting to make some places now. Andre Castro and Kim-Andre Pjotman quite close into the final turn, but no changes this time either. Down the hill they go, looking for that late apex. It's a very long and looping corner through that final turn, and now they've got the big chance all the way towards turn 1. And look at the weaving around from Sebastian Lipp. He's nowhere near as far enough ahead as he needs to be here, and he pulls into the pit exit almost to defend now. Here comes Bubok on the other side. It's all going on behind as well. We'll keep an eye on all of it as they go in towards turn 1. Grosjean Bubok gives a little bit too much room, I think, there to Lipp, who's going to be on the outside for turn 2, and so maybe it is going to work out for the number 3 car. He's still going to be there, Lipp not quite, and Grosjean Bubok does indeed get to the podium places.
Bulbuck in that number 3 car, now running in P3, but a civil war between the two teammates may be flaring up right behind Sebastian Lipp and Andreas Friedrich. Very close to coming to blows, heading their way off through the second chicane right towards the opening sector of this lap. Alfredo Malo may try and pick up the pieces. Those two inert iRacing team teammates, they're rather frazzled at the present moment. They're running in a strong spot, but now Sebastian Lipp is starting to struggle, and I think Andreas Friedrich knows that in the number 4 car. He's starting to hound all over the back of the number 10 cars. He runs mega wide coming out of turn number 8. This may be the time for Malo to pounce, considering the weakness of the 2 cars right in front.
He's all over the place at the moment, Sebastian Lipp, and can't really quite understand why. Friedrich right in behind him, and just needs to, well, I'm not sure what he can do from this position, Friedrich. He's just got to hope that Lipp gathers himself together here in the next few moments. That will help. Grosjean Bubok goes slightly wide there through turn 12. It's the long right-handed hairpin of Corantayo that he's just got a little bit wrong there, just got a little bit wide. That has given the others a bit of a chance to get back in the game now. On board with Alfredo Malo. He's got Andre Castro right up his rear end, by the way, right now, as Friedrich is right in front of us. This is extremely close. The Butelman just dropped back in the last couple of moments. Castro's right in behind him, and Castro is even going to go for it here. Already side by side in the background as Malo gets closer to Friedrich. Lipp, I'm not sure, is close enough to Bubok. It's all going to happen in towards turn 1 again. And there goes Lipp down the inside. 3 battles side by side in towards turn 1. Bubok holds on from Lipp. Friedrich holds on from Malo. And Björklund holds on from Castro. No positions change in that 6-car group.
The last 30 seconds of this broadcast here on RaceSpot and the iRacing YouTube channel here tonight just about sums up these SR10s. You'll have battles all up and down the field. I swear I have to feel bad for our producer Ramiro. Has to be like a chameleon looking at about 16 different things at once. It is some insane racing that we've got going on right now, but I want to raise this. Andre Castro, who's been incredibly quick all throughout this season, finds himself in 8th at the present moment. He already has 2 wins in 4 weeks for these 2100 GMT broadcast exit races here from the Radical Esports Cup. He's a fast driver in that number 2 car, but it really speaks volumes about how different this track is and how different these drivers have to attack this race. The fact that the driver who's taken the lion's share of victories thus far this season, the only multi-time winner thus far, still very early doors into this season, mind you, but the fact that Castro is struggling to the point where he finds himself just barely clinging on to a top 10 spot really speaks volumes about how tricky and challenging this racetrack is.
Marlow really close to Friedrich this time round on the way to the final corner. You can see him on the bottom of your screen there. Can he do something a little bit more substantial this time round? The fact that he's got slipstream from his teammate here, Friedrich, is helping him out, and that's not quite the run that Marlow needed. As by the way, we're getting to the end of lap 9. We are only 5 laps from the finish here. Lasse Sorensen is keeping Harvard Gulliksen in check for the moment, but there's no battle for the race lead. There's certainly a battle for the final podium places, and the teammates have got another decision to make here now. Lip and Friedrich, I think they're going to hit each other on the way towards turn 1. They're going to defend from Marlow. Are they going to give each other enough room? My goodness, that was close. Lip very nearly turning across his teammate, and now Marlow should have the place. He'll still be alongside here, Friedrich. He absolutely will not want to give that place up, but he'll be on the outside for turn 3, and surely he won't have much choice here. He's not given too much room. Oh, he's in the gravel slightly. Goodness me, that was close. In the end, it's Alfredo Marlow who gets up into the top 5.
And Andre Castro's dropping down like a rock in the number 2 car. What has happened to the multi-time race winner from this season? He's had some sort of off-track excursion heading off to the first section because he went from running in P8 all the way down to P18. Something has gone on with that driver. That was a disastrous turn of events for him. I gotta say, though, this battle up towards the front of the field, I think Bolbeck has officially shaken these drivers off. He currently finds himself in 3rd at the moment with about a second between himself and Sebastian Lip. Lip is now going to be the top gunner of this line of cars as we take a look in a moment to see what happened to Andre Castro. Heading off through that second chicane, hits that gravel on the outside and bang into that inside wall.
Yeah, the combination of the gravel and the curb. Oh, wow, he nearly rejoined straight to the side of someone as well. Well, thankfully he avoided, but that wouldn't have been too smart. Yeah, it's just that combination of curb and gravel that's sent even Andre Castro round into the wall. He's going to be last in a few moments' time, unfortunately, in behind Wesley Batista, who did indeed get into the race early on, but is running down in last at the moment. Alfredo Marlow has had a very good final sector here, and he is right on the back of Sebastian Lip. It is no longer a fight for 3rd. It looks like Grazian Bubak is going to have that, but it looks like Marlow is going to want 4th place now. Lip pushes him all the way to the pit exit, on the way down in towards turn number 1. Is he going to have that place? It's a real squeeze. That's the way to do it on the outside at turn 1. Squeeze your rival as much as possible and hope that you've got enough in towards 2. Can he shut the door before 3? Not quite. He's had to run a little bit wide, but Alfredo Marlow can't go through there. And now he's going to hope here, Lip, that his teammate can get involved. Andres Friedrich looks down the inside. He doesn't go for it there, though, down at turn 4. And it will be a concertina effect all the way down. Bjorklund, Barry and Braun all get closer as well.
That's going to be fun for us to call at the end. 3 drivers with a last name that starts with B, all running nose to tail, but this pack is still insane. Towards the front of this field, the front 3 have broken away. The front 2 of Gulliksen and Sorensen, I don't think we've seen them since about lap 2. They have just disappeared off into the distance. I think they're probably going to end up in Switzerland as some of these drivers are just crossing that start-finish line, as locking up, heading down into the chicane right towards the end of the lap is Kim Andre Bjorklund, and look at that contact being made. Barry having to check up dramatically to avoid contact, and look at Heinz Braun, ever the opportunist, getting that move done down into turn number 12. It's a side-by-side fight between those 2 racers on corner exit. Barry and Braun side-by-side through the fast chicane. Looks like one of them had to back out, but it was going to be Braun, because side-by-side heading off through there is a recipe for disaster. Did he back out of it, though? They're still very, very close time-wise. I think they actually went through there side-by-side. If they did, they should probably buy a lottery ticket, because that is the first time I've ever seen that work in my entire time doing broadcast here.
I think Barry just stuck in front before they had to go side by side through the chicane, having what I saw anyway. 3 wide meanwhile for 4th place. Marlow on the very outside, and Lip just lets them do it. Andres Friedrich on the inside line. Goodness me, that was close in the background as well, by the way. Bjorklund in front of Braun and Barry as they went 3 wide. They're still nearly 3 wide in towards turn 2. Bjorklund gets the position. James Barry will get ahead of Heinz Braun, and would you believe it, none of them have changed any places. Dennis Kirkopoulos catches them now as well. He's on the outside before turn 4, won't get anywhere though. He's inside the top 10 now, though, at least. Denis Kyrikopoulos 10 seconds off of the lead. Only 2 laps to go at the line here, and these battles are going to have to get sorted out some way. It looks like the podium might well be settled here, but the fight for 4th is not getting any quieter here towards the end.
Oh, it is still roaring with the fury that it did at the very start of this race. These drivers have been treating every lap of this race up to this point as if it's been the last, which granted, it's fantastic for us in the commentary booth, but for them, I'm sure they're probably running on borrowed time in the eyes of the iRacing god. So let's see if there's going to be any sort of drama that shakes up that battle even more. At the front of the field, though, Harvard Gullikson and Lasse Sorensen still running nose to tail. Harvard Gullikson, your reigning champion here from the Radical Esports Cup, won it in Season 1 of 2025, is looking to go back-to-back, and if he did that, he would be able to match the feat that James Barry did before him. He was a champion for Season 4 of 2024, and again for Season 3, and also again for Season 2 of 2024. 3 back-to-back championships for Barry, make that 4 for him in his entire time in this series, but things have not shaken out well for him thus far this season. Finds himself in 8th at the moment, but back up in the front of the field involving one of Barry's teammates and Alfredo Malo. This is a side-by-side fight we've been looking for.
Malo to the inside of Friedrich, and he's going to be through. It looked to me like Friedrich said, okay, you can have it this time round, but remember, this is the penultimate lap and not the final one. And so while you are going to be able to go down the inside this time round, I might not let you next time. We'll see. Malo, Friedrich and Lip look like they're going to fight for 4th between themselves.
And you know, as challenging as this race has been for these drivers, I gotta wonder how more terrifying it would have been if these cars actually had rain-supported systems. They don't have rain tires, it's just incredibly foggy here at Mugello today. Imagine if we were running in the rain, though. There's been quite many times ever since the iRacing weather system was updated that these SR10 official races have been run in completely covered over foggy conditions. I gotta imagine how more terrifying this would have been if these drivers had to deal with this in the wet. That would be a fantastic sight to behold. I'm sure these drivers would probably need many changes of pants, though.
It's not something we've seen yet, but I'm sure in the future.
Yet.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm sure in the future we'll get there at some point. Final lap, by the way, is about to be crossed here by Harvard Gullikson. He's been keeping Lasse Sorensen at arm's length just for this race. 3/4 of a second is not really close enough for any sort of lunge there, even with the slipstream that Sorensen's going to experience all the way down in towards turn 1. And so Gullikson looks like he might well take a lights to flag victory here tonight. Who is going to take 4th place? Well, it looks like Alfredo Malo is going to at least recover some of those positions that he lost off at the start. What about the teammates? Andreas Friedrich, I think his plan was to try and come back through again on the last lap, but that's not going to happen. It's going to be behind where the action is. Barry versus Björklund for 7th position in towards turn 1 for the final time. Kim-Andre Björklund gets through on the inside line. That was a bit easier than maybe you would have expected. In behind, Heinz Brum will close in, but that Björklund straight through there.
Yeah, Björklund, Barry, and Braun running in that order. Björklund getting that move done. He's another veteran of these SR10s. A driver of the number 11 machine has been around the block before. Usually ends up getting struck by falling anvil in the luck department, but hasn't happened to him in this race, and he's really flexing his muscles. Running in P7 at the present moment. His main goal for this final lap is just to hold on to that spot. The car's up in front. They're a little bit far away for him to make up any spots unless they have some sort of off-track excursion of their own. Björklund still putting together a very good race. This, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, would potentially be his best finish thus far in these 2100 GMT broadcasted races here on Race Spot TV and the iRacing YouTube channel. But this is still going to be a very good performance from the number 11 of Björklund.
Meanwhile, out front, the current championship leader is going to extend that advantage. Here, Harvard Gullikson, already led by 15 points over Rafa Blanco coming into this one here tonight. With Blanco down 11th, that will certainly extend as well. As Harvard Gullikson comes out the final corner to win here at Mugello, a lights to flag victory in an IGL Coatings 1-2 here with Lasse Sorensen just in 2nd place. Grazian Bubok drove very, very well early on in the race, especially to get up into 3rd, just ahead of Alfredo Malo, who will really be ruining that start. That's a very close finish. Kim-Andre Björklund just about keeps his nose in front of James Barry, who, just about keeps his nose in front of Heinz Brum by 15 thousandths of a second.
Another fantastic finish here from the SR10s. A photo finish here at Mugello, and I gotta say, holy cow, look at the fog around here. Despite the track being enveloped in such thick fog that you gotta wonder how these drivers were able to see each other. It was a very clean race here at Mugello. Didn't have many incidents out there on the racetrack. Just had 14 laps, lights to flag of some absolutely fantastic racing, and a brilliant performance from our championship leader of Gulliksen.
He takes the win ahead of Lasse Sorensen and Gradian Bubok, with Alfredo Malo needing maybe one more lap to get Bubok, in all honesty. Andreas Friedrich rounds out the top 5 with Sebastian Lipp just outside of that, 2 tenths further behind. Kimondre Bjorklund was another further second back, with James Barry and Heinz Brunn having that photo finish. Denis Kirikopoulos rounded out the top 10. Rafa Blanco finished in 11th place, just ahead of Leon Hernandez, with Gordon Haag holding off from Mika Henrik Hulkonen and Cadel Larsen. Luke Crowley and Gabriel Berger were changing positions a lot on the last lap, but they finished that way round, with Wesley Batista in 18th place. Andre Castro finished 1 minute and 5 down after his incident throughout the race, which was certainly a shame for him. But realistically, that was the only incident we saw here tonight, Ron, and that's fantastic display from all of these guys in terms of not only clean racing, but actually just keeping this car on the road throughout 14 laps. It's not the most difficult car to drive in iRacing, but it's not the easiest either, and this is certainly not the easiest circuit round here at Mugello. Very clean racing, and pretty exciting racing as well, especially when you consider some other categories that have gone round here at Mugello and not provided such exciting racing as we've seen here tonight.
You know, putting a challenging car around a challenging track in conditions where the track temperature never really exceeded something cooler than room temperature, it's always been rather cold for this race. These drivers were able to master those conditions rather well. The cream were rising to the top. We saw some of the best in the Radical SR10s here on the iRacing platform put in some absolutely brilliant drives. I'm rather impressed with these drivers yet again, and I'm rather surprised that the race was as clean as it was. I was expecting it to be a bit drama-packed, especially with that run down into turn number 1. But hey, they put on a pretty good show, and I think we may also have a chat with our race winner here. I see him down there in the booth.
He is waiting for us. Hava Gulliksen, who can now have a chat too. Congratulations on the win tonight. Hava, congratulations on holding on from your teammate. A 1-2 for the team as well. Tell us about how that race was for yourself. It looked like it was a race of controlling from lights to flag. How was it in the car?
Thank you. Not full control. We had to push all the way. Lasse is my teammate, but if he is faster than me, he will try to pass me. So yeah, but we are friends and we have respect for each other, but I pushed all the way.
We saw at the start of this broadcast you've got the most points so far after 4 weeks of racing here in the Radical E-Cup for Season 2 of 2025. How do you approach that week on week in terms of points? Is that something that even factors into your mind in any of these races when you're going week to week, or have you just ended up there because you've been having some good races so far this season?
I've been singling out these broadcast races because the SOF is very high, and then you get more championship points. So all of us race this Friday nights, I think.
Yeah, very tactically well done. Well done on winning the race here tonight, and I'm sure getting a load more points as well towards that. And we'll see you again very soon.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Let's have a Gulliksen, who wins here tonight from Mugello, and Lasse Sorensen just finished behind him in second place. Congratulations, Lasse, on second. It was about half a second between you and your teammate towards the end, and as Savage was just telling us there, if you were close enough, then you were going to go for the move. But how close to being close enough do you feel you got, if that makes sense, over the course of this race?
Oh, I think I was pretty close, but we had teammates. We are P1, P2. I was happy with that, so I just maintained the gap, but Håvard's pace today was completely insane in front there, and being behind is so difficult, especially in Sector 2 and the start of Sector 3 because of the dirty air, so it's really struggling with the front tires to keep up with the pace there. So yeah, I'm super happy with the week so far.
And is it a circuit a little bit of two halves here? Because a lot of the racing at Mugello you see in other categories, it is very difficult to pass around here. In towards turn 1, these cars had quite a good chance at overtaking, but as you say, through the middle sector, it must have been quite difficult to follow. Does it feel like a circuit of two halves, a strange circuit maybe to drive in these cars?
No, I really like it in the Radical. It's a good rhythm and flow in the track. So you have, of course, difficult sections, and you have to always maintain throttle input and also the steering input to just keep the tires in a certain window. But no, I really like the combo. It's been a blast this week.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on finishing second in the broadcasted split, and thanks for coming to chat to us at the end as well.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Lasse Sorensen, second place here tonight at Mugello. Well, that's just about going to do it for us here this week in the Radical Esports Cup here from Mugello. We'll be back next week as our train of difficult circuits in terms of twists and turns come. It's Road Atlanta on the 25th of April. We'll be live from 2100 GMT as always. The week after that, by the way, it's Phillip Island, and the week after that, Oulton Park. So plenty of difficult circuits still to come on this calendar. If you're with us on Racebot TV, then don't forget to join us in all the other Radical racing that goes on throughout the weekends, as well as these broadcasts on Friday evenings as well. Big thanks to everyone who's been tuned in tonight, though. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Ron Mounds, and Romero Augustin Cisneros has been behind the cameras. Until we see you next Friday at Road Atlanta, it's goodbye for now.